I am the boss monster, the biggest of them all. I will rule this world together with my little minion. We will be the biggest. I am the biggest. Look how strong I am. Look how angry I am. None of you shall win this. I am the monster that is the strongest and biggest. I will win everything.
Daddy, are you playing with my toys alone?
No, sweetie, no. I'm just picking up all these toys. I'm cleaning. No, I'm not playing with them. No.
Hi people and welcome to the channel. I am Richard. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the game Overboss. I'm going to show you how to set up. I'm going to show you gameplay of the basic mode, the advanced mode, and also the solo mode. This game is about you becoming the overboss of the world and just take over everything. What would you do if you became the overboss of the world? What would you do? Would you turn everybody into board game players? Tell me that in the comments. I would probably turn the world into board game players. Yeah, the more the merrier, right? Tell me in the comments what you would do. Anyway, here's the video for Overboss. I have done an unboxing video on this, and I'm sure you have already seen it, right? But just in case you haven't, press the link up here and you can see that video as well. Well, let's get into it. There are a few different ways of playing this game. The first mode is basic mode or classic mode. This mode is for newer players that haven't played the game that much or maybe are brand new to the game. It's just an easier way of playing it. You also have advanced mode, which is a little bit more difficult, but for advanced players it gives you a little bit more of a challenge. And then you have solo mode, which of course is for solo players. When you set up the game, first of all you have to decide if you want to play basic or advanced. For basic, you have the player tiles with less grids. You have 3x4 here, which make a faster game and a little bit more easier game. And then you have the advanced mode. Here you have a bigger grid, more turns, more rounds, a little bit more of a challenge. Once you have decided what you want to play, you have to pick the terrain selection cards. These ones, you can pick them randomly or you can pick specific ones. This is again if you want to have a little bit of a more easier game. They have a few cards that they recommend to start out with. You should also always select 5 different cards. You should see which ones you want. You have the cave, the forest, the graveyard, the swamp, and the camp. And these are the ones that they recommend you to start with if you are a bit new. But of course there are a lot of other different terrains as well once you get more advanced. And when you're more advanced, you should take all of these, shuffle them together, and start the game there. So once you have set up the terrain selection cards, it's time for you to pick the tiles. And as you can see here, everybody have a specific symbol. The forest, the cave, the graveyard. And you should have 12 tiles matching these to start your game. And up here we have them. Here we have the camp tiles, we have the forest tiles, the graveyard, swamp, and so on. And there is 12 of all of these. When you start the game, you're going to mix all of these up. You should be all mixed it up together. Beyond the terrain tiles, you also have the small token tiles. And as you can see here again, they match up. You have the swamp as well. And you should have 10 small tokens that all matches up with the 12 terrain pieces. You should also have some portals. And you should have 7 portals. You have some fountains over here. Fountains, you should have 5 fountains. And some mini bosses. And of the mini bosses, you should have 6 of them. I will tell you how all of this comes together in a little while, but this is the start and this is what you should need. All of these tokens are going to be put into the bag, mixed together, and I'm gonna mix up all the terrain tiles as well. So now we are ready to actually play. We have the market, we have the playing areas, we have all the little tokens and the terrain tiles. So let's say it's this player's turn. He or she really only have two things that they can do. They can take a tile, a terrain tile, and the little mini token that belongs to it and place on their playing area. So let's say this player picks the swamp, they will also have to take the little cave token. And as you can see, they do not fit together, they have different symbols, but you will be able to swap them later using portals. Because if you have a swamp token on a swamp terrain, well, you guessed it, you get more points. But this is what they get from the start. You have to place a token on a tile where you can place a token. And you can place small tokens on everything except dungeons. So this swamp token goes here, and we put the little mini token on the terrain tile. Now, as you can see here, there are water along the edges, there's some mountains, and there's more water. And you get extra score if you put a water terrain tile next to the water edge. Now this player has done its two things. He had picked a tile and placed it on the board alongside with the little token. So they only really have one last thing to do. They have to restock the market. Because the next player should always start with a full market. And we pick a little mini token here and place it beneath that terrain tile. So now it's the next player's turn, and this player has to decide what terrain tile and mini token they would like to have. This player in particular picks a dungeon tile, which means that you can't put the token above it, because remember, on dungeon tiles you can't have mini tokens. Now this is a portal, and portals can never be placed on a terrain tile, so it wouldn't matter. But what do you do with these little tokens that you can place on the terrain tile? Well, you put them down here in your nest. And in this nest you can have an unlimited amount of small tokens. But just remember that if you have a terrain tile up here that is empty and that you could place a little token on, you would have to place any token from your little nest on that terrain piece. I have spoken to you briefly about the fountains and portals and mini bosses, but what do they actually do? Well, they give you different benefits in the game. The mini boss, for example, will give you a score of 2 if it is placed on a terrain tile on your board. So if you have this mini boss on this tile, you will get an extra 2 points. Portals, however, do not give you points and are always placed in your nest or lair. And they should always be placed with this green side up. And what they do is that once per turn, you may flip it over and you may change the position of up to 2 monsters or mini monsters. So if you flip this, you can take this one and you can change it for this one. Once per turn you can do that. And the fountains gives you different scores depending on what kind of tiles you have on your board. This one, for example, gives you 1 score per every camp that you have on your board. And fountains, just as portals, should always be placed in your lair. So that was the basic game for you. But what about the advanced game? What are the differences? Well, there are a few different things actually that happens when we go over to advanced rules. First of all, we started using kind of different tiles. You can use them in the basic game as well, but they are a bit harder and there are a little bit more different scores to keep a track on the ones that are a bit more advanced. We also have these command cards. These cards are actually quite cool. These gives you the possibility, or your opponent a possibility, to mix around your tiles or the opponent's tiles. So you can actually sort up your own tiles or throw around your opponent's tiles. And it works if you have, for example, 4 of the same tiles combined like this, twisted and turned any way you want, then you can use this card to flip around your tiles or the opponent's tiles. Same thing as this. There's different types of command cards. There are different abilities, different patterns, and you should mix these up randomly. Pick 4 of them and place them next to your board, and you or the opponent can feel free to use them anytime they have a pattern on the card. Another thing is that at the start of an advanced game, you get an Overboss monster. So each player gets 2 cards, and then they get to pick 1. All of these monsters have different kinds of traits and different kinds of scoring bonuses. And they should be placed down the whole time until you choose to reveal them. Once you reveal them, you have a specific thing that you can do during your turn and an end bonus. Once you have revealed them, you should place them face up on the table. And also in the advanced game, we start to use the bigger side, the bigger grid. And as you see here, you do not have a nest or a layer on this one. So instead of placing all your little tokens that you can't use in your nest, you have to put them next to the playing area instead. So now we're down to the last playing mode in this game, which is the solo mode, which for me is the most interesting mode because I love playing solo. And you set up the game just as I showed you before. You still have the market with the 4 tiles, you can still use the command cards, and you have a boss monster that you can use during your play. You also have the playing area, and you can of course choose if you want a advanced mode or just the basic mode. You can choose that however you want to, and it kind of works the same way. You still pick the tiles that you want to pick and the little tokens that you want to pick, but instead of you refilling the market, you slip away the last token, put everything to the right, and then you start to refill your market again. 2 new tiles and 2 new small tokens. And we're ready to go again. What I also think is pretty cool about this solo mode is that you actually have a campaign. You have a campaign that you can follow, different steps. As you move on, you progress, it gets a bit harder. You even have side quests here that you can complete during your game, which I think is just brilliant for a tile placing game and gives the game a whole new depth. So you can really test yourself, you can really go out and try to beat your own scores, try to become better. You get to try out all the different boss monsters in the solo mode. I think this is really cool. So how do you keep score? When you place your tiles on your board, you have to have the scores in the back of your head to kind of know where you want to place everything. Because depending on where you place it, you get different kinds of scores, and you might want to have some kind of plan on what you want to collect. For the forest tiles, for example, you get 1 score if you have 1 forest tiles, but you get 3 scores if you have 2 forest tiles. And you have 6 points if you have 3 forest tiles, up to a total of 15. So 1 forest tile, 2, 3, 4, and 15 points for 5 forest tiles on your board. The swamp tiles, they give you a score, an extra score, if you border next to water. So if you have a water board next to your swamp tiles, you get an extra score. Plus, you get an extra score if you have a little token with the same symbol on. And then we have the graveyard. Here you get a score for the graveyard tile, but you also get 5 extra points if you have the most graveyard tiles in the playing group. And if you are second, you get 2 points. And then we have the dungeon tiles. Same thing here is that you get an extra score if you border until up to mountain borders. So you have to have in mind where you place it. And every terrain tile have different kind of bonuses and so on. For this one, for example, for the campsite, you get extra scores for each and every unique camp tile. So if you have 4 unique camp tiles, you get a total of 16 scores. And in the rulebook, you can of course find all the unique tiles and all of their different kind of scores. I won't go through them all because there's just too much and you won't remember it anyway. So you kind of just have to read through this and just learn a little bit by heart and have the rulebook next to you on the table. So there you have it, people. That was Overboss for you. This is really a game for the whole family. I mean, it says 8 years on the box, but I think if you have a smart 4 or 5 year old, they could also figure this out, as long as you just keep helping them with the score and how to think about the game. And if you play in basic mode, it's not that hard. It's easy to learn. It's fast gameplay. I think this game is a lot of fun, and I'm gonna be putting down a lot of hours playing this solo. So that was Overboss for you, people. If you like this video, please support me by press the subscribe button, give me a thumbs up, and until next time, take care.